Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another video. So this week I want to get into why we are so reactive sometimes when we are dealing with a difficult person, especially someone who's narcissistic. So why are we reactive? So here's just the quick rundown here. The reason why you are so reactive to them is because they like to provoke you. They like to kind of pick at you. They like to figure out where are your wounds, where are your triggers, and that's going to be the thing that they really just kind of hone in on and use their tactics of choice. They want to get a reaction from you. They crave drama. They crave the negativity. Attention is attention, no matter if it's good or bad, positive or negative. So when they start fights for no apparent reason, a lot of times people call this baiting. And if you kind of are not aware as to what's going on, you're going to be lured into that fight, that discussion. You're going to continue on the merry-go-round of dysfunction time and time again with this person because you don't even realize that you're on the ride because you're not aware of who this person is, what they kind of do time and time again that tries to provoke you or tries to get a rise out of you, that tries to kind of stir things up and create drama that's very unnecessary. So they're going to pick fights, they're going to jab at you, they're going to make these little comments, these little digs. And a lot of the times, yes, some things will be blatant, oh my God, you just said that, or oh my God, you just did that. Oh my God, you're being passive aggressive. Oh my God, you're giving me the silent treatment. Some things are very obvious, but other things aren't really that obvious. And unless you have begin to really examine that you're dealing with this type of a personality, someone who does this, then, or someone who is narcissistic, then you're going to unfortunately just kind of conform and get involved in these situations, which creates drama and dysfunction. And like I said, you're just going to keep going in the merry-go-round. So no matter what the tactic is that they use, you have to really, really know your audience. And you should know your audience regardless of someone who's narcissistic. You should know who's the person in front of you, where are their wounds, where are their triggers, where are their insecurities, what do they like to do, are they manipulative, are they controlling, are they narcissistic, are they passive aggressive when they don't get their way, what happens, because we're all human and we're all a lot of the times functioning from our own wounds and our own programming. It's unless you're dealing with someone who's really enlightened or very, very self-aware and can 100% own their stuff, which if you have those people in your life, kudos, because to me, those are the healthiest people in the world because they know what's wrong with them and hopefully they're actively trying to work on fixing it or they can at least be called out on it. But if you're dealing with someone who is narcissistic or emotionally abusive, difficult, unhealthy, toxic, whatever, then chances are they're not going to have that level of self-awareness. So learning what your triggers are going to be an abuser's top thing. They want to know where your wounds are, what you're afraid of, what you're scared of, what you're insecure about, because those are going to be the things that they're going to provoke you when they start a fight, when they are passive aggressive, when they try to use manipulation. So all of the manipulation, passive aggressive, silent treatment, those are just tactics. But the way someone uses that method with you is going to look different than if they use it with Susie or Bob, because each of you are different and each of you have your own triggers and wounds. That's why literally the first program I ever created was my 9-week course on emotional healing, because you cannot be a healthy individual if you have no idea where your wounds are. If you don't have any idea of what they are and how they show up in your life, you're going to struggle because the abuser will know what they are because they can blatantly see them. But if you don't know what they are, then you're going to allow someone to use those things against you because you're not self-aware of it. So learning about emotional triggers is really, really important. Now, you have them because you react, which means you got triggered. So learning about what are the things that cause me to react. And again, it might be different depending on the person. But really and truly, it all boils down to where your wounds are and what are the things that are still left that are unhealed and the things that you have to kind of dig down and really do some inner work on. So let's go over those really quick because this is really important because this is the reason why you get provoked. So one trigger could be rejection and betrayal. Another could be your insecurities. So if I have an emotional trigger of rejection, meaning I have an abandonment wound, then when you reject me in any way, you don't want to go out for dinner with me, you don't call me back right away, things like that, that is, in my mind, a form of abandonment, and I'm going to get triggered when you do those things. Now, if you purposely are doing these things, and here's provoking. Provoking is when you're purposely doing something to trigger someone. If someone just doesn't call you back, they may not necessarily be provoking you, they're just not calling you back. But if you know someone's doing something just to get a rise out of you, or just to get you a reaction, basically, that they know that this bothers you and that this is a trigger for you, and they're just doing it continuously. Now you know you're dealing with someone who is manipulative or narcissistic, emotionally abusive, etc. But, being ignored, whatever insecurities you have, meaning when you talk to other people, whether it's jealousy or if you've ever been betrayed, then you might have some, again, form of abandonment and an insecurity about when you're speaking to other people. If you get criticized and you can't handle criticism too well, that's definitely an emotional trigger. If you don't like being ignored, so if you're speaking to someone and someone doesn't answer back right away and you get very frustrated by that because they weren't even listening to you and you were getting ignored, essentially, if you react very abruptly to that and that really upsets you, that's a trigger for you. When someone treats someone unfairly, that could be a trigger for you. And here's the thing, it's not about just recognizing your triggers, because if you have even a little bit of self-awareness, you can kind of go down and say, okay, what are my triggers? I 100% know what mine are. I would hope you would know what yours are. And if you don't, just think about it for a second. Whenever someone says something or does something, does it trigger you? So when someone does it and it triggers you, or says this thing and it triggers you, that's your trigger. But what you want to know is what's underneath that, because that's the actual wound. Like, where did that trigger come from? So let's get into why you actually get provoked, like why you actually react in general. So first thing is, most people are very shocked when I say this, but a lot of the time you're reactive just because you're in a habit of doing it, and not just stopping for a second and saying, okay, that bothered me when they did that, but let me go in and take care of that stuff because that's my stuff, and just stopping for a second. When you use a little bit of self-awareness to kind of like slow down, then you can start to have more control over your life. That's why we say mindfulness and self-awareness. That's literally step one in self-development or spirituality or anything like that, because you have to be able to be aware. And in order to be aware, you have to slow down for you to say, how am I handling this situation? Is this the way I want to handle this situation? And even if you're human, which we all are, and we sometimes just react instead of responding and slowing down, that's okay, that you can at least take a step back after that situation, self-reflect and say, how could I have done that better? The next thing is, you really do care about what this person thinks. Like, it bothers you that they're doing this. It bothers you that they're angry with you. It bothers you that they can say the thing that they can say to try to cut you at your knees, because you think that they really truly believe this about you. And maybe they do, but maybe they don't, and they're actually just doing it just to provoke you in general, because again, they know where your insecurities lie. So you caring too much that this person is upset with you right now because they're not getting their way and they're using some guilt, they're using some manipulation at you. You're just, again, it's kind of like baiting, like you're taking the bait and you're just running with it, and you're continuing the cycle over and over again. Like, you can't control what someone else does, but you can control what are my actions that I'm taking that starts this cycle of abuse? Because I can't control you and what you're going to try to throw at me to want me to go along on this ride with you, but I can stop for a hot minute and just say, okay, what I typically do is this, and if I don't want to start this all over again, then what do I need to do differently to go in a different direction? That way I'm not going on the ride. You can go on the ride all day long, but I'm going to actually just stay where I am and get off the ride now. And that is, like I said, it's habit for you to want to go on the ride and just do what you've always done. And it's going to take self-awareness for you to say, oh my God, here I go. I'm about to start getting on the ride again with this person and going back and forth. And you have to learn, how do you go back and forth with this person? What is it that they do that tries to hook you in to the drama, to you actually getting provoked? I mean, another thing, and we just talked about it, is you have to know your triggers, you have to know your wounds. But you also have to know who you're dealing with, and it kind of just touches on what I just spoke about. You have to know the person in front of you and what they do that does provoke you. You have to know, what does this person do that gets a rise out of me? What do they say? What do they try to throw in my face? What do they try to do? Like, you have to be really self-aware of that, because if you are, that is an absolute game changer. Because when you see, okay, I'm aware of what they do to try to provoke me, it's either actions or words or, a tactic or what have you, then I'm telling you, it's the most powerful thing in the world, because then when it happens, you just sit there and you're like, it's like watching a movie. You're kind of like, oh my God, I'm watching this actually happen. And you have more self-control over how you then engage. Now, if you still feel triggered on some levels, then you know that you need to disengage from this person and just get away from them, so you can be able to kind of like, whatever, give yourself a minute, self-reflect, do some self-parenting, try to understand the situation a little bit more, because maybe they haven't used their typical method. Maybe they're using something that's a little harsher. Maybe they just caught you on a bad day and you don't have the strength of the energy to watch this movie right now, and you just fell for the trap. It's gonna happen. You're human, and that's okay. The other thing is, when you're easily provoked, when your triggers get hit and you just run with it, on some levels, like I said, you want to control the way someone views you. So if someone makes a comment about how you parent or the way you look or the way you behave or whatever, and you know that it's not true, but you're so insulted that someone could even say this or do this to you, in those moments, you are abandoning yourself. Because if I truly accept myself and I truly love myself and I am in a good space with myself, then your words, if I don't believe them, they don't really mean that much. They don't really hold true. So they're not as powerful as the way I actually view myself. So yeah, I might get triggered a little bit, but not to the point where I get provoked and I react. No, that will not happen. Because again, you're gonna have the self-awareness to see what's going on. You're gonna know that this person likes to do this, this, and this, or say these things. You fully accept and love yourself, and you know you're not that person, so you don't need to convince someone of anything else, and you don't get provoked. I mean, that's really how it works. The other thing is, I think so often we're taught to fight back with words, and we're taught to fight back with ego, and that by me getting so mad and how dare you and I can't believe you and trying to convince someone of your story. It's just how sometimes we're programmed to operate in the world. And usually it's because you come from that like tough love mentality of like, no one's going to speak to me that way. And from this ego place, when you're wholeheartedly in a good space and you're healthy, you're calm. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. And that's a great place to live. When someone comes straight from ego, you're going to want to fight back, because you're going to feel that this treatment or these words or this comment or this jab is so unjust, is so untrue. I can't believe you would do that, let alone think it. And you'll get so offended by what someone is doing to you. If you haven't learned this, you're going to get provoked and you're going to react. And the chances are you react probably in an abusive way by either giving that person a little dose of the silent treatment, passive aggressive, whatever behavior, in an attempt to kind of like punish that person. You now become the problem, what they call is reactive abuse, where you become reactive and you begin to abuse that person. They flip it on you and you're kind of like, wait a minute, you started this and now I'm the problem? So this is why staying calm and understanding why you're getting provoked, and really why you're getting provoked, is because you just haven't learned how to have enough self-awareness. You haven't learned who your audience is and what they're doing, and you haven't learned how to fully heal from your emotional triggers, your emotional wounds, and fully love yourself. So I hope that this has helped you. If you have any questions, I always link all of my programs down below. So if you are interested in the 9-week course, I highly recommend it. You can actually do a bundle and do 2 of my courses for a really huge discount. I'll link that down below, as well as any private coaching options as well. And I will see you next week.